Mom's name is Maria. How is it that it's important to know how I got to the Azkaban name and what was the alphabets before it, the ages before? Because what if an Indian or some Chinese person can't get to that name because it comes from a black church? It comes from a strong E that comes from an Esther and a Jasmine and a Vanessa and Veronica that comes from a Bernie Mac 2004 American name of something that a black man might name his daughter in a domain, but it might relate to a certain ping that might come from a Chinese name of a accented E will be a light colorful China pattern E with like Chun Li because girls don't wear patterns, but there might be a Bible name and an Azkaban that comes from a different Chinese language of different kingdoms that might someone might name Chun Li Pokemon is like Chinese anime because they might be trying to stick people's intelligence, saying that Cammy has blue eyes and it's mixed race babies. That someone says I'm uncomfortable with a Chinese person because when I name my baby with a high E and an elephant versus a Bible character versus a low E Indian elephant versus it doesn't even have a name but it's still called different elephant Chinese because it could relate to different nutrition of the behavior of those through the domain, not just through the human race of that area of how people do political science to try to capture animals and capture new forms of science through my program of the National Geographic founder in 1800 when it relates to political sciences and animals also go with magazine sciences of social relation to how different countries relate to in the frame of a box of American isolated science that could put a box on the ice when it's not the summer and a box on Antarctica when it's not animal from Chicago has a domestic population of everything is in a unit of economy or markets of trash and economy that doesn't relate to Chinese population of things. When I name my kid a Esther or Ruth, it comes from a different era of a kingdom outside of a population of a pillow or this with an E or a different accent of an E will be the start of this video because if you put a lady named Maria versus a Bible name, they might not have a strong E or accented Egyptian E in the name of a different kingdom that produced that type of thoughts of the name where a girl might feel a certain way like Eloise or Nefertiti, Veronica, Vanessa, or Jasmine with the missing key could mean Esther and a Nebuchadnezzar could mean different based on what position they're placed in the alphabet anomics in the list of order of where it's placed when it also is a common name of American transaction of what someone will say this is the color gold, but someone might use a different language to say it's something meaning. But if someone has common sense, they'll say I'll name my baby Jasmine because that's not the name that other people say they're not from that race. When some Indian or some minority tries to give someone access to name their kids something in the domain that relates to some boy who proved his belief, but they claim they won't pay him because the lady from the social science from the psych hospital claims she can scam him because she claims that she was not caring have political relation to Koreans that say that he didn't get rights from white Americans, but they claim he has to pay taxes to things that doesn't relate to his belief and God's chosen one, and why he warned you about God at a time you don't offend him in the right domain of you being an old person who says that you had no power at a time you try to take political domain over someone who has right to avoid the political economy of the Skokie Council and the different cities that of Arlington and the suburbs that are not populated because people don't like to go to Aurora because it was already had the glory of Aurora, right? So when the Joliet existed, it already had the Nazarene. So when you go to the north outside of the CTC, South Aurora, Joliet, and Kankakee, you might have a Arlington, you might have a Arlington, you might have a Des Plaines, you might have a Elk Grove, you might have a Bronzeville. That these are like lower levels of the scape of a RS that have different northern regions of different levels of things. Because yeah, you could go to Alcora, you could go to like Eagles Peak, but the higher you go, you don't get access to all the economy in front of you in one place. It's different at different locations where someone might name the kid a different meaning. From Wisconsin, Jasmine might be different if they go to the inner Europe, Afghanistan and Egypt instead of the European colonies of Britain. When someone might, the British name might relate to Bible name that might be different for people with blue eyes, height and European history, different from a different tribe of one thing that comes from someone that's completely different than 1,000 people in a race population of a lady named Maria. Chinese accent to the E versus Veronica, Vanessa, and Jasmine might not be the name of this, or something that is possession or owned of a young man that has something that he might have wanted when he was young at age 2009 before they bulged his head out, and there was different political sizes and growth of a black man that people might have went to dirt to evict him from his house and lock him in the psych hospital because they claimed that he couldn't prove his belief of them stalking him and saying that they want to be seen for something that didn't come, saying they wanted to be feared for saying they can't compete with other men at a time. They want to name their kid something based on his sciences and love for God that they say they weren't aware of it when they locked him in the psych hospital and they had weapons, but said that he had to follow the law because they were acquainted with a secrecy of saying that he was mentally ill at a time, saying that he couldn't be compensated because the social white scientists wouldn't exit him from the hospital at a time. They claim that they were trying to get the best of him, saying that they had no enemies because they say that the boy they were following the law and they had political safety to say that they wanted to make people fear them using guns, saying that the boy couldn't fight for himself because they claimed that they were politically correct. So sometimes when I was very dangerous for me in these times, I want to name my kid Jasmine versus the first American state with the A, because people were very jealous and offended when I proved my belief in science and shown the difference of them claiming that it's not true, that they were trying to say show face after they rose against me because they were jealous and offended, trying to get a safety off of hiding from people that they claim were their friends because they want to scam people, because I was already getting attacked before them and before they're skulking when someone says, oh, they want to say lighten up, but because you claim that you were a crybaby and you want to have people offend you in secret because you were an emotional man who said that you want to evict people because you claim you were just playing at a time, that you claim the boy lost a lot, had his first job when he was 15, meant business when he was signed his son says his businesses, but you thought it belonged to you in secret because you were a white man. So I guess the boy wasn't crazy. You really did have hate and you want to steal his stuff that it took him his whole life to build, because he joined the Air Force at 2011 and you were hiding 24/7 in secret because you were jealous and offended that he was going to get married to a beautiful woman, and you were aware of it, that he said they want white people and Amanda and a Mexican and Israeli people and Chinese people. You were aware that you were jealous and offended at what he was going to name his kid and the alphabet of a Bible name, a Marine name, an Air Force name, and a baby A, a baby E, an accented E, a difference of your nonsense when you want to write a story about something that has nothing to do with your political law and things that your fathers did not create, in the way that you claim you were jealous and offended of a young man for standing for his belief, not relying on nobody, not leeching on nobody, standing in when that gap when gangs and murderers were saying they want to counsel him and steal his identity because he couldn't afford things when he was young, when he didn't have a father, and grow up at a time when they were trying to say that they were trying to politically correct out of all the billions and people of the world a young man because you claimed that he was going to get married to the girl that he loved. But now he lost his thing and they evicted from his apartment and all that he built. He was like, what if I can't really do nothing because the Lord is good? Because he can see that what I wanted, yeah, porn star is good, but what if I wanted a sweet lady like Mother Mary when I was young? Because I wanted to have love in life when they said that they were aware they were trying to schizophrenia and put a stingy because they were jealous of Clear Eyes and what the boy felt in real life, saying they wanted him to show face with the nasty spirits and belief of their own stuff that they wouldn't bring up at a time they were jealous and angry. Even when the boy didn't go to church, you were the lonely one who tried to make connections to these people who you rejected you and then try to come out based on my life. You see?